Welcome to the Christian Woman Leadership Podcast, where we hope to inspire you to embrace your God-given gifts, skills, and passions in order to lead with confidence. We want you to remember that you are fearfully and wonderfully made in the image of God, and you are fully loved by Him.
You have been designed on purpose by God with unique gifts and passions in order to love and lead those around you. I'm your host, Esther Littlefield, a pastor's wife, business owner, mom, and writer.
And I'm Esther's co-host, Holly Kane. I'm a wife, mom, and business owner. I also write at hollykane.org, where I focus on my passion for women's ministry.
Together, we chat about important issues that Christian women leaders face. In addition, we interview other women just like you who lead in various roles, from church to community to business. Through this podcast, we offer you encouragement, tools, and resources to help you on your leadership journey. We are so glad you're here with us. Hey, friend, and welcome to episode 199 of the Christian Woman Leadership Podcast. I am so glad you are taking time out of your day to listen to this episode and be here with us. So just a quick little update on life and this podcast. Today, I'm doing something a little bit different. So we had an episode planned and we had a recording with a guest planned for today, but that fell through. And instead of Holly and I scrambling to try and come up with another option, we are releasing an episode that previously released on my Christian Woman Business Podcast. Now, I don't usually do this, but the conversation with my guest was so good. And even though we talk about it in relation to business, I believe that everything that Sonita shares can completely be translated into the world of leadership. And she actually specializes in working with leaders. So it makes sense to share this conversation with you on our leadership podcast. So today you're going to hear from my guest, Sonita Reese. Sonita is the founder of First by Five. She helps people-focused entrepreneurs lead with vision and build connected organizations that grow people and profit. And in this conversation, you're going to hear us talk about this idea of mission, vision, and values and why that is important. We do talk about it in the context of business, but I think, again, if you can translate this to whatever scenario you are in, whether you are just simply leading in your family, whether you might be leading a community organization, a ministry at church, or a large corporation, then you need to have a mission, vision, and values for that organization or for your family or wherever you're leading. And so she's going to walk us through exactly how to create a vision specifically. And we're also going to talk about how you can translate mission, vision, and values into behavior and actually impact the culture of your organization. Because that's what sometimes happens is we have these statements up on the wall, but they don't translate into actual behavior in our organization. And so I know you are going to get so much value out of this conversation, and you're going to get practical tips and steps you can take from Sonita on creating a mission, a vision, and values for your organization. Now, before we dive into the conversation, I want to mention two things. One, if you enjoyed this conversation that you're going to listen to today, then hop on over to the Christian Woman Business Podcast and make sure you're following that podcast as well, because that is more specific for those of you who may be building some kind of online business, and you will get to hear more conversations like the one that you're hearing today. And the other thing I want to mention is that I am hosting a retreat in September in Maine. So that's coming up very soon. And that retreat is specifically a mastermind retreat for Christian women business owners. So if that's something that's of interest to you, then hop over to Instagram and shoot me a DM or send me an email. You can email me at podcast@estherlittlefield.com. And just shoot me an email, mention that you're interested in the retreat, and I will get you the information. And if we still have spots available, you can find out more and join us. And actually, Sonita will be there at the retreat with us. So you'll get to meet her in real life as well. All right, friend, let's go ahead and jump into our conversation with Sonita Reese. All right. Well, welcome to the podcast. Today, I am here with my guest, Sonita. So welcome, Sonita. I am so glad to have you here with me today.
Esther, it's a delight to be with you.
Awesome. Could you start us off by sharing a little bit about yourself and what you do?
I'd be happy to. So my name is Sonita Reese. I'm an ex-corporate consultant and marketing leader turned chief encouragement officer for people-focused entrepreneurs. I help them rise above their daily demands, lead with vision, and build connected organizations that grow their people and profits. I'm really passionate about this work because in my 18 years in nonprofit and corporate work, I saw how so often energy and stress were either wasted or exacerbated because there wasn't a clear vision and people didn't know where to focus, and it caused so much avoidable stress. So my heart is really to help businesses grow by decreasing avoidable stress with vision, mission, and values.
Oh, okay. Decreasing stress. You're speaking to me with that. I'm sure you're speaking to a lot of the listeners of this podcast. So you said mission, vision, values, and this is something that I've talked about on the show before, but I realized I've never actually done an episode specifically around this topic. And so through getting to know you more through Uplift, which you're a part of, I have gotten to know that this is really your zone of genius. So I'd love for you to start by telling us what exactly is mission, vision, values. What does that mean?
Okay, so I'm going to give everybody a very simple way to think about it, and then we'll unpack that with more of a dictionary definition. So here's the simple way to think about it. Mission is what you wake up to focus on every day. Vision is where you're going and leading people. And values are, who do you want to be on the journey? So let's unpack that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Your mission. What do I wake up every day to do? What causes me to jump out of bed to focus on the daily? More formulaic business definition of mission is, how do we help our customers by offering services or products to them? And what's the benefit to them? But if you keep that, why do I wake up every day? And what do I want to focus on? That's how I really like to think about vision and mission.
Yeah.
Then vision, where am I going? So vision is an attractive and vivid picture of a future worth working toward that is good for all involved. So it's somewhere you want to go. And hopefully, if you are defining it and communicating it, somewhere people want to go with you because it's a better place.
Right.
And then values, who you want to be on the journey. What are your beliefs that you base your decisions on? And how do you live them out? Values are the bedrock of behavior, and behavior is one of the bedrocks of culture. So the who do we want to be on the journey? That's what you believe and how that ultimately shapes how you behave and the culture you build.
Okay. So good. I love all the language you're using. It's just making it feel so much more real, I think, than a lot of the other language that I've heard people use when they talk about it. All right, Sonita. So I think when we think about mission, vision, and values, and when I've thought about it in the past, I've thought about it as something that you need to have if you are a large organization, if you are a big company. You think about Coca-Cola or Apple or these big organizations that need to have these things because obviously they're running gigantic organizations. But I know that you feel we all need to have this. So could you tell us why? Why is it important for us to have the mission, vision, and values, even if we're just a solopreneur?
I love this question so much. And I'm going to answer your question by asking all the listeners, would you sign up for more clarity, more energy, and a higher ROI in what you're doing? My guess is you're nodding your head vigorously or saying yes as you're driving or something like that. And that's my answer, why we need mission, vision, and values to be clearly defined, even as solopreneurs, because they bring us greater clarity, much more energy, and a higher return on our investment for both monetary decisions, but especially people decisions.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yes. All things that we need for sure. So you specifically shared with me that you have a passion for getting clear on vision and having a winning vision. So could you talk a little bit more about that and what that is?
Yes, I'd be delighted to. So a winning vision is that vivid, attractive, clear picture of a future worth working toward that you should define for yourself, your business, and the people you want to be on your journey with you, even if you don't have a team yet, even if you're a solopreneur who isn't working with contractors, you will be eventually. So it's winning if you want to pursue it, if you're excited to go into that future that you are creating. And the reason I believe that every leader needs it is because it unifies and builds confidence. And without that clear picture of where we're going, we can sabotage our success. Let me give you a practical example. So if your vision is to go north, well, you're going to avoid making decisions that are going to send you south. If you don't know what direction you're going in, any direction's going to do. And you may end up, we're all going to end up somewhere. It's just a question of, do we want to end up where we're going?
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because I've never connected this before, but I talk a lot about the idea of your ideal life and your ideal business. And essentially, it's what you just said. It's that vision of where you want to end up. Because for me, I did exactly what you said. I started my business without a real clear vision of where I was going. And I ended up having something and creating something that I didn't actually enjoy. And that was causing me stress and causing me just a lot of, just feeling like I was spending my time doing things I didn't enjoy. And that's never a good place to be when you're running a business. So can you share a little bit about how do we actually get that vision? What are the things we need to do to get clear on the winning vision?
This is such an important topic, Esther, because we live in a very distracted and distressed world. We live in what some have termed the attention economy because so much vies for our attention that we have too much. That's our challenge, right? Is not the lack of choices, but too many choices. So I share that because the first place we start is by making time for this, getting quiet, and giving ourselves the space to dream. So I like to encourage leaders to adopt an ABC approach to creating their vision. A, act like a child, imagine and dream. B, build a 3D vision, which is to really get deep along different dimensions, which I'll share in a second. And then C, communicate in detail. First, communicate for yourself and write down specifics, adjectives, numbers. These things make the vision become tangible and vivid. And later, if you have a team, communicate to them. But ABC, act like a child, build in 3D, and communicate in detail. So once we've gotten quiet and given ourselves the space to do this, take that ABC approach and then write out, what do you want to change and or create? Again, remember, the vision isn't only where we want to go, but it should be an attractive and inspiring picture of the future, something that's different. So to share with you just two practical examples of that, I imagine everybody here has heard of the Ritz-Carlton. If we've been fortunate enough, maybe we've even stayed there. Horst Schulze, who started that brand, his vision was to create the finest customer service company in the world, not just the hotel industry. And everything they did around that hotel brand and the opportunities it gave staff to not only be part of something bigger, but to be proud of and learn a trade went into that vision. So I share that because he unpacked it a lot further, but it was a future people wanted to be part of and a change. So how do we create that vision? We get quiet and allow ourselves space. We take the ABC approach. We start thinking about what do I want to be different and what's attractive about that future? And then practically unpacking that for the business, for our role, even if we're a solopreneur, right? I imagine we don't want to be doing all the things forever. I certainly don't. So unpack it for our role and then unpack it for your team if you have a team or plan to. And then yourself, the person who isn't defined by the business, but the person. Because Esther, like you shared, part of that winning vision has to be something that we can see ourselves in at all those three levels, as the leader of the business, in whatever role we're playing for the business, and then as a human being. So that's how we do it.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a couple of follow-up questions. So how, for those who are a solopreneur and they're creating this mission and this vision and their values for their business, how connected is it to their personal mission and vision? Like, do you think that they're the same, or do you think you need a separate mission, vision, and values for your business versus your own personal life?
Your personal mission, vision, and values are certainly connected, but distinct from your business's mission, vision, and values. And the reason for that is because they're different entities and they require different investments. They have different impacts on the people who engage with it. So for example, as just on my own, I don't have customers or clients, but as a business, I do. And so you take them into account with your mission, vision, and values, but they are definitely connected. And I'd be happy to share an example of that.
Yeah, I love it. Sure.
So my personal values, I'll just share the top three. I have 6, but they translate to my business values. So my top 3 personal values are faith over fear, family first, and whole person health. Whole person health for me is physical, spiritual, emotional health. It's that whole package. I want that abundant life that Jesus talked about. And it's been a struggle for most of my life. So those are my top 3. In my business, there are some extensions of that, but it's different. So my business values are, the top 3 business values I have are whole person success, which we live out in the guiding principle of work to be great at life. The second value is that people matter. And we live that out with a guiding principle of relate before transacting. And then the third is positive leadership, which is lead. We live that out in a guiding principle of lead with purpose and optimism. So hopefully you see the connection between my personal and my business values, but they're not 100% the same, because my business values should support the vision and mission of my business.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So good. Okay. So the other follow-up I have on this is for our listeners. They are Christian business owners, women entrepreneurs. So how does faith play a role in this process? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes. So good. God is the author of dreams. God is the author of vision. He spoke and the world came into being. So I think we should release ourselves from needing to get it right. And he's put dreams in our hearts. He's given us, some people may know their calling, others may not, but we certainly have the skills and the passions and the things that he's given us. So involve him in the process, right? That's faith, either through journaling or through prayer, but involve him in the process. When you take that quiet and adopt that ABC approach, ask him to be part of it. And the other thing too that recently I was reminded of is, okay, I have verses that have really been powerful for me in my business journey that are different from verses that have resonated with me personally. And maybe I've been a little bit slow on the uptake, but I finally realized, oh, wow, they're really related to my business vision. And those 2 verses for me are John 10:10. I've come to give you life and life more abundantly, especially in the US. It seems that we always have more than we can do, and we're living to complete a giant to-do list rather than really living. And so that desire to live and help others live has really factored into my business vision and the work that I do. And then the second verse from Matthew 11 about the yoke of Christ being easy and his burden of being light is amazing, because vision, mission, and values help lighten the load of growing a business. And the other cool thing I'll just share there that I learned, I'll be honest, this morning, I was doing a little bit of quiet time in this. I learned something about being yoked from the perspective of an ox having a yoke and being yoked to another ox. A single ox can move up to almost 1 time its strength. When an ox is yoked with another ox, it can move almost, I think, up to 3 times their combined strength. Now, when an ox is yoked with another ox and learns to listen to the voice of their master and is trained, it can move up to 10 times their own strength. So for me, that's resonated personally in terms of faith, but in terms of vision and business, the power we can have by working with others and in our businesses, if we can live forward with a vision, wow, we can 10 times the strength of the impact we're trying to make.
Yeah.
So,
oh, so powerful. That's such a great, a great analogy to think about as business owners and the way we can partner with others. So one more question specifically about the mission, vision, and values is this something that we share publicly, or is this something that is more internal use?
yes and yes.
Yeah.
So let's take the second piece that you mentioned, internally. So we have to get clear internally to be clear externally. And certainly we should share very deeply and consistently internally, even if it's only with ourselves. I do this work, and I have had to remind myself to put my mission, vision, and values up every day. And with the contractor I work with and my marketing, to speak more about them consistently. So yes and yes. Do we share them externally? Certainly. When you're clear about your mission, and that can be modified to be a more appropriate marketing statement or to interact with your audience, the why behind what we do is always powerful for people. And in fact, for many businesses, can be their differentiator in their marketplace.
Right.
Vision often can help as well, not only with attracting team members and employees to work with you. So think externally for recruiting, but it can attract partners. It can also contextualize why you will or will not do something, and can certainly help in marketing as well. And then values, particularly if you can translate those into guiding principles for behavior. Wow, those are so good to share internally and externally, because they define the culture that you have. And then you've got to keep cultivating that. That's probably a podcast for another time, Esther.
Yeah.
But it communicates to the world kind of what not only you stand for, but how you want to behave. So I'll be honest, sometimes it's a little scary. I have this value of people matter and that guiding principle, relate before transacting. So that gives me pause when I'm responding to emails or something's not going right with a client, and I have to, I care about this person, especially leaders. Leaders need a lot of love too. I work with leaders and they need a lot of love and support. So how does that remind me to interact with them? And that tells the marketplace too what they should be able to expect from me in terms of how I'm going to do business. So
yeah. Okay. So good. So you mentioned this idea of turning mission, vision, and values into behavior. Would you mind expanding on that just a little bit more, so that if someone's listening and they're like, okay, how exactly do I do that? What does that look like?
Yes, that's such a great question. So vision should ultimately guide everything we do, from our strategy to should we invest in the future in this area or not. So vision, you should consult your vision when you're making your strategic plans. You should consult your vision when things aren't feeling like they're in alignment, you should certainly communicate your vision to team members when you hire them and invite them to be part of that process. And one practical way people can do that is, for example, if you desire to make a huge change in the marketplace. My vision, for example, is to flip the script on what seems to have become the normalization of stress and burnout in corporate America. I really want to flip that to create work cultures that foster well-being for both people and society. So one of the ways I envision being able to do that is having human well-being become more and more a metric of success that companies could report on. One way to make that real is to keep track. How many companies that we've served or leaders have adopted well-being as a metric of success in their own scorecard. So that would be an example of vision. To make mission turn into behavior, practically speaking, and Esther, here, you're so good at helping us do this, is how do our offers align with our mission? How do where we're investing our resources align with our mission?
Yeah.
So that's a practical way. And then values, this is probably my favorite one to share on in terms of behavior. I go back to that relate before transacting example. Practical ways we do that in my business are not just to say, how are you? But if there's a late payment or a delayed payment, so following up politely is great, but choosing first to check in and see, hey, how are you doing? Is there anything going on that I need to know? I haven't heard from you. I haven't, and then following up. So not to diminish the importance of the fact that there's a late payment, but to place the importance and value of that individual first. And the way businesses and even solopreneurs can do that is by taking your values and creating an associated set of guiding principles for you and your team. It can even be something as practical if customer service is a high value for you, giving all of your team members authority up to a certain dollar amount to make decisions that would allow them to deliver the level of customer service you set. So that takes values from being words and translates them into behaviors that are observable and people can experience.
So important, because I think in the work that I've done with values, and even just thinking about like within my church context and other businesses that I've worked in, a lot of times it does just feel like a list of words on the wall. And it doesn't feel like we have a tangible way of figuring out what that looks like. And so what you just shared is so helpful in taking that from just words to tangible actions that we can be, observing, measuring, and encouraging within the organization. So helpful. Well, Sonita, is there anything else that we didn't cover about this topic that you feel like that would be helpful for our listeners to hear today?
Maybe just an encouragement that we're all busy, and it may seem like one more thing to stop and take the time to do this. But I really just want to encourage you, if you haven't taken the step to take even one of these things, I would recommend starting with vision, but any of them, mission, vision, or values, taking some time just to sit and be still and to reflect on them and get it down on paper, because that's a start. And clarity is a lightning rod for focus and momentum. And when we allow ourselves the space to put that lightning rod out there, it's going to make everything else that we do that much more focused, yes, but it will bring energy to the rest of your work. So just an encouragement to invest in doing this if you haven't, even if it's messy or you have a limited time.
Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly. Taking that time to be quiet is probably one of the hardest things to do as a business owner, especially if you're driven, if you're success oriented, you just want to go. But it's those quiet moments where we can really find that clarity. So I think that's just a encouragement that I would echo that you shared, Sonita. Thank you. So as we wrap up, could you share where can people connect with you, Sonita? And is there anything that you would want to give people or offer people as an option to continue the relationship with you?
Yes, Esther, I would be delighted to continue to engage with anybody who has found this resonant for them, either by connecting on LinkedIn, where you can find me at Sonita Reese. That's SonitaReese, like the candy, or on Facebook under my business name, which is First by Five. You can also find me at my website, firstby5.com. And there'll be a link in the show notes to a download that are 3 questions to spark vision thinking for those who want to spend some time doing that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Sonita, for your time today. Thanks for joining us on the Christian Women Leadership Podcast. Do you want to become a more confident leader? Then make sure to grab the Confident Leader Manifesto. This is a resource that Holly and I developed just for you, and I share all about it in episode 6, Leading with Confidence. You can get the manifesto for yourself at estherlittlefield.com/confident. And that's confident with a T. Now, don't forget, your leadership matters, and it's time for you to embrace your gifts and lead with confidence.